Major funding for Backbone of the World was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
It's really hard to tell these stories. Our grandfathers, our grandmothers, they told us about these stories, and that's how come you go to these young people, they don't know. There's a lot of stories we know. You folks get together and get video and take the story we're gonna tell you folks and keep them in a future time. Our grandkids, all the small grandkids, when they grow up, you folks can put the video on and they'll listen to that.
Many thousands of years ago, there was a chief, and he had a very beautiful daughter. And of course, a lot of the young warriors wanted to marry this girl. There was this one boy there. He was very pitiful. He didn't have nothing. This boy had a very ugly scar on his face, and so they called him Scarface. She was out by the river one day, and he walked up to her and he said, "I know I have nothing but my love, my heart." And she looked at him and said, "I'll marry you, but you got to get permission from the sun."
Come over here. Hey, guys. You know, it's just, when we get out in the woods anymore, it's like, it's really hard to know how we act anymore. It's just like, we don't know who we are anymore in the woods. We think we do, but we really don't. It's not like our ancestors. It's not like that anymore. I don't know what to do sometimes. I think like I'm upside down. What do you think?
And you think you get scared of the things that go on out here in the woods, and you're even more likely to get caught up in violence in town, you know, so it's really safe out here.
You're lost, you're in a circle. You're still lost. And you don't know where you're at half the time.
It's the way the sun hits your face. And
you hear the voices of our ancestors calling you and talking to you and speaking to you and telling you things to do, and you can't understand them.
The Blackfeet are a people unquestionably tied to the land. All of our spiritual traditions emerge from our relationship to the land. The earth is our mother. In the early 1980s, over 130,000 acres of pristine wilderness located in northwestern Montana, known as the Badger II Medicine, was opened up for oil and gas development by the U.S. Forest Service. This sparked a wide-ranging controversy. The Badger II Medicine borders Glacier National Park and is a traditional source of knowledge for the Blackfeet. The stories of Napi the Creator, Morning Star, giver of the sun dance, and Scarface the Savior came from this area. It is one of the last places our people can go to practice our ancient tradition of spiritual vision questing. The Badger II Medicine is a sacred place. It's a place we all have to protect.
We got to keep reminding people, no matter what kind of laws they make, no matter who gets elected, that there are people here who are still caring about this land, who still want to have a decent place to live, and who are still going to come out and stand up for what they believe is right.
We need to protect it.
They're going to essentially destroy one of the most pristine wild places left in this whole region, in this whole country.
Myself, I think it's just environmentalists that are against the drilling and against the oil industry because of the media. And there's two companies that have drilling rights in there. It's FINA and Chevron. I think the biggest controversial one is the Chevron well, which is on Goat Mountain. The different environmentalists and other outside groups that are opposing it. The Blackfeet tribe, they're opposed to it not because against the development or the environmental, but because of their claim of rights within it. Like they claim that it was not a sale but a lease, and that they still have the mineral estate in there, and that belongs to them. And I believe if that ever came about, either the drilling would happen.
One of the things that we talked about is, trying to give the badger a voice in this film, both visually and with audio. Really looking to you guys to step forward and pursue some of these, and not to be afraid of your ideas and your feelings and how you want to express them.
For me, this film is about the Blackfeet people, who the people really are. And I think if we accomplish that, we're going to touch on what the badger issue is all about.
Our ancestors used all of this land that we call the homeland of the Blackfeet people. They have used it in many ways for worshiping. They camped within these areas. They seek for vision quests. And recently, we've had oil companies wanting to do some exploration. They wanted to do some development within that area. And our people were very against development of that kind. I think this is the only area that's still left where people can actually go and do the kinds of things that our ancestors done.
You don't have to be a Blackfeet to come to Badger 2 Medicine and experience what's here. It's a human issue. It's not black or white. It's a human issue we're dealing with here, because you can do it to native cultures, you can do it to anyone in terms of stomping on their traditional rights, their cultural rights.
It's really been an incredible experience for me to be able to actually come home as a result of this film project. Some of my friends like Darrell, Kipp, when I first put the question out to him about being able to come back home, he said, just come back, that's all you have to do. Just do it, and everything else will fall into place, as it will or as it's meant to be.
For a long time, it's been really important for me to come back to the Blackfeet Reservation and to find out about my cultural ways. I've been making films for a long time, and most of that time has been spent working with other Indian tribes. I've always would have this sort of lingering thought in my head when I would be in the Pueblos in New Mexico or with the Utes in Utah. I'd always envied people who had some sort of connection to their homeland and had the ability to connect to not only the community there and their family and have that kind of connection, but also that cultural connection. Because I really didn't know much about my own heritage, and I didn't know what really belonged to me. I didn't even know what was Blackfeet. Now that I have had this opportunity to come back home, beginning to sort of feel I have a place, I have a home.
When I took on this project, I knew I really wanted to do something different. I wanted to make a film that I could really say was from the Blackfeet point of view, from an Indian point of view.
Okay, one thing, remember, when you set that camera down, it's like nitroglycerin. If you don't set it down, easy.
And I felt up to this time that that hadn't been done. But to do that, I had to take some enormous risks. I had to work with people who had limited experience and possibly limited understanding of what we were trying to accomplish. But in reality, what I found out in working with the people that I ended up working with was that they really did have an idea of what I was trying to accomplish.
What we're doing with bringing ourselves into this film and, you know, showing behind the scenes things, and out there in the non-Blackfeet world, it's not done that way. But it's a different world, and Indians don't see the world the same way, you know, as American society or as, you know, other peoples in the world. Hey guys, what you doing?
Got any worms or hooks?
Any worms?
No hooks.
I'll bring you some.
Yes! Woo! Thank you. Thanks.
I can remember when we first invited the Santa Fe Mining Company to come in, and they wanted to take a look at the hills, and we had all our elders going in there at the time, and we had a Suburban full, and I had several of the spiritual leaders from our reservation in this pickup. And we were going up into this area, and I didn't realize how steep this area was, and the first thing happened is this guy from the Santa Fe Mining Company, his four-wheel drive burnt out on him. And so he got in with us, and we took off. We started going up this big incline. I mean, it was steep. First thing he got out, he started walking all over and walking this way, walking that way, walking over this way. I said, "What you looking for?" "Well, I'm looking for your church. Where's your church at? You know, you say this is a spiritual area. Where's your church?" And they said, "Well, you're standing in the middle of our pew. This is our church." And so things like that is very important. Now, I'm sure this was stuck with this man a long time because nature is our church.
Our people have become misinformed by a lot of things. We tend to believe what's written down and not what we hear and what we see. We've separated the physical from the spiritual. We doubt ourselves. And when we doubt ourselves, we become confused. You can't wake up in the morning and decide that today I'm going to wear this hat. And put it on. No. Your got to be Piegan from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed and even in your sleeping hours.
I think people feel disenfranchised without even really knowing that that's what happened to us, you know, and you know, I come up here today, and actually I've been up here before, and I was thinking about how I'd love to bring my grandparents up here, because it's been many, many years since they've been up here, and how my young nieces and nephews have never been up here. And I mean, I realize now I'm getting older, I have to, you know, I have a responsibility to bring them up here, you know. Somebody's got to do it. And But they don't know about this place. I mean, they're just hanging out downtown Browning and riding up and down the streets and trying to figure out who's behind those smoke glass windows.
The thing that I'm always amazed about, Darren, is places like these restaurants like Red Crow and so forth. It's really interesting to see how daily life and business gets done in places like this.
Yeah, and it's that's the point about these restaurants and breweries. This is where a lot of business does happen, and this is where a lot of ideas and dreams are shared, are in places like the Red Crow restaurant. I think Lloyd just wants to be raining.
Hey Lloyd, sit down, have a seat.
See, I was wondering, you know where I can get a book, or maybe you have something on the nuts and bolts of how to write a treatment for a screenplay?
My angle could take in here, right from here, a shot, and then I could see everybody.
Keneni tukum. Okiamo kanatus. Moksakwe, anyok mi agsta posu takopi. Okiku kush. Agits psapyo. Ok. This Badger 2 medicine area. In stories I've heard, there was a clan that lived in that area, and they were called Muktasokinakix. They were medicine people. They had the powers to heal, either through, herbs or through spirit helpers, but they were a group of people that were really relied upon to help whoever needed the help. And that's where people went to, and I heard this. My grandfather told me, he said, Heart Butte, that area behind there, I guess that's the Badger 2 medicine area. That's where those people were at. So even as I was a child, I knew if I ever needed to seek those people out or to seek help, that's where you go.
The Blackfeet have been here for thousands and thousands of years. That's our belief, that's our oral traditions tell us that. And so that we have a relationship that has been established for thousands of years in this area. We roamed a great area in the plains, all the way down to Yellowstone and all the way north, way up into Canada. And what we have left now is this small area that some of these sacred sites like Sweetgrass Hills and Badger and Chief Mountain are outside the boundaries of our reservation. But they're not outside the boundaries of our cultural history that we have with these places that are still very viable and very important to us.
The Blackfoot tribe is fortunate because we're not a tribe that was relocated or brought someplace, but in fact our entire history as a people evolved in this region. And so consequently, all of those years, thousands of years, that the Blackfeet had been in relationship with the world around them. Places like Badger Two Medicine, Chief Mountain, Sweetgrass Hills, other very sacred areas were well known to the whole history of the tribe.
By telegraph from Chicago, Illinois, January 29, 1870. To General W.T. Sherman, Commanding Army. In compliance with your permission of November 4, 1869, to punish the Piegan Indians who've been robbing and murdering in Montana, I have the honor to report the complete success of the expedition sent against them, under the command of Colonel E.M. Baker, 2nd Cavalry, in which 173 Indians were killed, 44 lodges destroyed. Also, a large amount of winter provisions and 300 horses were captured. I think this will end Indian troubles in Montana and will do away with the necessity of sending troops there this spring as contemplated. I am, General, very respectfully your obedient servant, P.A. Sheridan, Lieutenant General.
Yeah, Baker Massacre, Chief Heavy Runner. That was my great-great-grandfather. My great-grandfather was a survivor of the Baker Massacre, and I think he was only 9 years old when it happened, and it was during the dead of winter.
Okay, hasikoyo mahka. Agitsa keskino kon hanik. Okenik se kikso kwa, swanis se tapitski.
Siko ake. Kititapi. Ukosix. Be strong of heart today. Keep in our hearts that we are of one. And we must keep in our hearts the memory that we are one. So we can be strong and go on, and that we can prepare a better life for our children. Heavy Runner's family, 2 daughters and a son, his children, ran for their lives on this day 126 years ago, that they ran from here to save their lives, to save us, so that we might come back someday and represent them and honor them and keep in our hearts a memorial. They live on amongst us. His children, Jim Kipp, Joey Kipp, Leona Goss, Mary Kipp, Merlin Bilodeau, George G. Kipp, James G. Pixie Kipp, Karen Kipp, Kippy Kipp, Gigi Kipp, Mary Kipp, Dexter Blue Galbraith, Loxie Galbraith, Susan Galbraith, Miriam Galbraith, Jimmy Galbraith, JJ Galbraith, Eugene Heitzy Kipp. Ethel Schmidt.
Aksuga ben with the bad the cinema that was pretty good and then the bad piece. This cinema is the sugar. Get the bad to skin so this cinema that and it would it's with the book. Oh, in this turn and
The ceremony here is to acknowledge Heavy Runner and all the Blackfeet that were sacrificed. We offer them some tobacco and some pemmican so that they continue to help us and that they're not forgotten.
Being here and knowing what this history is has been really difficult for me to even think that it's appropriate to even shoot. It's a whole different thing for me. It's like I've been so used to being behind the camera and doing things, covering events like this, but this day for me is really different. I'm really having a hard time trying to follow in the old ways of filmmaking and stuff that I just can't attach myself anymore to it. You know, this is becoming so personal that it's really hard to almost even feel good about even filming.
Fire! Load! Aim! Fire! Load! Aim! Fire! Freeze and hold!
We honor the memories of those who gave their lives in the service of their country, and of those others who have dropped their burdens by the wayside of life and are gone to their eternal rest. May the ceremonies of today deepen your reverence for our dead. Let us renew our pledge of loyalty to our country and its flag. Let us resolve by word and deed to emphasize the privilege and duty of patriotism.
You know what's amazing to me sometimes? It's like how schizophrenic we've become. We're serving and honoring the armed forces, which had so much to do with the devastation of not only our tribe, but many other tribes. That schizophrenia of being able to live in two worlds that way, it's just amazing to me. Strife that we have internally as a community, as the Blackfeet people, in trying to come to terms with these issues is, I believe, a direct result of this colonization that we've been under for several hundred years. And this interference in our affairs, and the interference with our freedom to fully continue our relationship with the world around us. And this act of trying to come in, it's not just simply to exploit the resources is what we're concerned about, but it's cutting us off from our relations, from our blood, from our beginning, and what we are made up of as Blackfeet people.
Based on the concept of the white American family is not working. At least for the Indian people, it's not working. So basically we have a dysfunctional society today. We don't have those sacred objects.
All of a sudden we were being forced into these certain specific areas, and although they were done by treaties, then the Blackfeet became really acquainted and really acquainted with these areas as their land base. And Blackfeet lore also says that we actually came from this area too. The late 1800s, when the buffalo were starting to no longer be available to eat, the white settlers were expanding out toward the mountain front, if you will, from the east. Tribes were poor. There was nothing to eat, nothing to subsist on. They became more and more dependent on the government. And then the government would come in and more or less make things available. One of their thrusts was education and medicine and this type of thing, to try to somehow Americanize or to turn the Indians into Americans at that time.
This is our land. This has been our land. The remains of all of our people have been buried in this ground. So that's the spirit that we walk on every day. It's all our ancestors. They're all here, and we call on them. Our culture is just going to get stronger because I believe that we have a belief now that whereas everyone was telling us, that's the ways of the past, why would the Creator ever give us something that was only good for a little while? Only good for centuries and centuries and centuries. I just can't imagine that.
Scarface told his grandmother he was going to marry the chief's daughter, but he had to find the path to the sun. She made him a lot of moccasins, and they prepared pemmican for him. And he took off on his journey. He was out there all by himself, and he felt very lonely a lot of times on his journey. And as he was traveling up this trail, he found a very beautiful bow and quiver, but he walked around it, and he started going on his journey. On his journey, he found a very beautiful shirt. Oh, buckskin was just beautiful. Oh, it's very beautiful designs. And all he had on was rags, nothing. But he went around it. He kept going. One boy met him in the trail, and he asked, he said, who are you? And he said, I'm Scarface. And he said, who are you? And he said, I'm Morning Star. He said, the sun is my father, and the moon is my mother.
So we did a 2 or 3 hour shoot yesterday, and it didn't work out because they had sound problems, right? Mm-hmm. What was the problem? Wake you up a little better.
Our problem was that we had too many cables.
We didn't know which ones to use.
We didn't know which went into where and why, basically.
Yeah, these grandmas talking yesterday, and since the sound didn't come out, we're not going to have, the benefit of what they said, but we at least have their images, and they're really beautiful old women.
For all of us, just to take a moment of silence, and we can just pray in our own way, just for the success of the work that we're doing here, the long-term work, not just this film, but the fact that there are so many people out there we need to pray for in terms of our community and the people of the world. We're in very difficult times in the world today.
I work for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and my title is Realty Specialist in Rights-of-Way. I've worked in oil and gas for a number of years, and it's a ceded strip. Borders the reservation on the southwestern edge of the reservation and east of the Glacier National Park. And there's 2 companies that have drilling rights in there. The Blackfeet tribe, they're opposed to it because of their claim of rights within it, like they claim that it was not a sale but a lease. As a member of the tribe and everything, and I'd have to stick with the tribe and say I oppose it, but I'd oppose it that I disagree with ownership on it. I would say it's the Blackfeet tribes, and that's our mineral estate, and that we should be able, the ones that take and decide who drills or who doesn't drill on it, who produces it, and if it is production there, that we should receive the royalties. And as just myself and everything, and if I was part of the industry, I would say let's drill it.
From what I understand, the analysis of it, the amount of oil or natural gas that they would get out of the area would only support the U.S. economy for half a day. And to me, that's so ridiculous. It's just asinine that someone would think of destroying such beauty and such sacredness and such good things for just a cup of oil. I mean, that's what it is to me, and I would never give that up, and it makes me mad. Yeah.
I look at the Badger 2 Medicine as the Blackfeet's final stand, and it's a sacred place. It's a pristine wilderness area, and our elected body of council haven't put together a plan to defend it. Our tribal attorneys are just looking the other way and selling off our jurisdictional rights to the state, and they don't realize that between the federal government and the state of Montana, they're the ones that are keeping record, and anytime they gain any jurisdictional rights, it's implied consent that they have control over us and can do what they want.
Well, for instance, like the Forest Service, and the head of the Forest Service at that time, Dale Gorman, he wanted me to pinpoint the peaks. This is a sacred mountain, this is a sacred mountain, this is a sacred mountain. All these others aren't. That's what he really wanted me to do. And I couldn't. I says, all mountains are sacred to us. I mean, he laughed a funny laugh, and he says, no way. He said, that doesn't work. I said, well, Mr. Gorman, I said, let me ask you this question. Suppose this one Sunday, I says, during your church services, I went in there, went in the door, took my hard hat off, walked up to you and said, Dale, now where's the most sacred place in your church? And he would say, right there, and right there, and right there. And I would go back out, and I would get on my bulldozer, I would knock everything down of your church except those things you pointed out. And he said, well, I can always go to another church. That's the kind of people I was dealing with. That's the kind of people I was dealing with. And so, but I excused him for his ignorance and all that.
I don't see anything about sacred ground. Maybe it's sacred to certain individuals. And if they would mark out those spots, I would just treat it like personal property, and I wouldn't bother with it. And when you go through, we'll say, the drilling of a well or even exploring for there, you'd have an environmental assessment or environmental impact statement, and those things, they could make arrangement to mitigate around them.
Whatever diminishes the tribe diminishes the individual member of the tribe. And whatever enhances the tribe as a group then enhances the tribal individual. But we have come to a modern intersection, so to speak, where certain individuals within the tribe do not perceive of this communal give and take anymore, but in fact are following competitive lines of today's society that says the individual can master or can exploit or can develop or can utilize things for the individual's use and not be too concerned about the communal group.
1, 2, 3.
Indians!
And he said, did you come up that trail? And he said, yes. He said, didn't you pass a bow and an arrow? And he said, yes. Didn't you pass a shirt? He said, yes. He said, why didn't you pick them up? He said, because they didn't belong to me. And so this impressed that boy. And so he took him to their lodge. He went in there and introduced him to his mother. He said, this is Scarface. And so after being introduced, she sent the boys out, why don't you go out and play? She said, there's a lake over there. She said, don't go near that lake. There's some bad birds there. And they've killed 3 of my sons. And so Morningstar took off running for that lake. And here come those 3 birds that killed her sons coming after Morningstar. So Scarface picked up a stick, and as these birds approached, he killed these birds.
Nakasipisoak. Agaksamyomi tkonakutskikkanam. Kakatusi. Kenakutskinamanyo ka patrsots. It's so I Christa Boya is skin. Nakasipisoak.
There's a interrelationship, an interwovenness about Indians' view of the world around them that is uniquely different. Their respect for the mountains, their respect for sacred sites, their respects for the places here were really tied deeply in how their language allowed them to see the world around them. They saw the world as alive, and they saw it as being part and parcel of them, not as something that was separate from them, but that they were interwoven into the fabric of the land through their language.
There is beginning to be a mind shift. And when you were talking about that in terms of like losing medicines, losing the language, losing songs, losing prayers, you can gain those things back by going into places like the Badger 2 Medicine.
And if we as a tribal community have the ability to reach back and reclaim that, then we have also the opportunity to share it with the rest of the world. And hopefully that will help us understand as a world population how we can live in better harmony and take better care of the planet that we're on. Because if we don't, as human beings, we'll be just like the dinosaur and any other animal that has become extinct on this planet. And we have to really change our way of looking at the world. And that's why places like the Badger 2 Medicine is so critically important, not just to Blackfeet people, but to all people. And to me, that's why it is such a strong issue for Blackfeet people. Even if we don't fully understand that, we sense that.
Could you tell me a little bit about the Badger 2 Medicine? Yeah, I could tell you a lot, but they want to wake up to our Indian traditions because for the simple reasons that they want to drill on our land, but that's our holy land, see? We don't want anything to do about that, you know. We don't want to believe in these other people. We want to keep our tradition, our heritage.
I have just one more, to say this, because we've been asking the same question to everyone. What does the Badger to Medicine mean to you? You could just say that.
What is a badger? Oh, jeez.
Give me a wider shot.
And when you say, like the badger to medicine, what I see in my mind is kind of like a wildness. You know, you feel a connection, and it's just not being out there to enjoy the fresh air. It's something that's in here. It's it's a spiritual connection, but I also believe that it's inherent. It's always been there, and it'll always be there. That's what I feel.
This is the land the Creator gave us. He gave us Badger Canyon to be a part of us. It could never be that for anyone else, because they don't understand. That was ours from the beginning. The beginning, very beginning of time. If we let it stay natural, the Creator will recognize it. But if we ruin it, you know, He's going to look at it and say, is that the land I give to the Blackfeet people to live on? To get all their medicines from? To get those things that I gave them to carry on their way of life? You know, this is how we believe. This is how we believe that it's important to us.
If you read the agreement of 1895 as it rests today, it's an agreement. We were paid for this land, but we did retain certain rights in there. That means that they bought it, but the Indians still believe that there was something to do with a lease.
Henry Little Dog got up and asked about the Badger to Medicine. He said, that's ours. He said, that's ours. And he says, no way that we ever ceded it to the United States government. He says, no way. He says, I was told, he says, my father was a chief of this tribe. He says, he never did tell me otherwise. He always says the Glacier National Park was a lease, a 99-year lease. That's the way these old people understood it. And Tom Miniguns got up and he expressed the same thing. But this representative, this BIA representative, he really got out of that really quick on that subject. He shut them old people up. He didn't want that.
I'm of the belief that the land was fraudulently taken, which is not a surprise because that happened all the way across this country. But I think it's pretty obvious, and I think some people should really look into that. Someone apparently sat at a table and wrote down a person's name as they came up. So they wrote it in English, then they wrote it what their name would be in Blackfeet. And in the center there was a parenthesis and it said his mark, and then there's an X in the middle of it. And so I would assume that since the Blackfeet people weren't writing English at that time, that there was someone sitting there writing all this out, and each person would come up and make their X in that parenthesis. And if you look at them, you can see that the handwriting is all the same, one after another, all the way down. And then maybe someone changed, and now there's a new person writing, so the handwriting changes, and then it's the same for a while. And all the time, the X's are the same too. They're all X's all the way down, look like just like if you went down a piece of paper and made X, or they're all plus signs, more of this way instead of this way. And you know, it's pretty obvious to me. You get a handwriting analysis person to look at, and they'd probably say individual people did not make those X's.
There is no ownership of the land. We might be put here to take care of it, but we don't actually own it. And I really like that concept. When we go into those wild areas, whether on the reservation or up in the ceded area, and spend time there, we find a lot of signs of my ancestors there. We find pictographs, buffalo kills, where those street men had washed areas out. Just going up to visit those areas, to hearing the wind whistling off the crags down through the pines, to hearing elk bugle in the hills. Those are the same elk that my ancestors back hundreds of generations have hunted and lived with. And it really puts me in touch with who I am and where I want to go in the future. I want that place to continue that way for my children. If there's anything done in the headwaters of the seeded strip of the Badger to Medicine, it's going to kill those rivers. It's going to flat kill them.
I was over hunting in the goat mountain. I was with my uncle, Joe Spotted Eagle. So he went up on top, following these elk, going up. He's trying to get close so he can shoot him. And I got tired. I sat down. Then I went to sleep. There's an old man with the costume, Indian buckskin. It looks like it's all raggy. And he told me, he says, look down. See all the people you got, that's your people. You cut your skin, red blood will come up. Then you take the others, same thing, all the same. Red blood come off of your people. So you all the same people. Don't neglect anybody. Be good to one another and help one another. And you teach one another whatever you got to know. So when my uncle come down, he says, was you sleeping? I told him, yeah. I said, when I woke up, a goat was standing right here. That's one was talking to me.
We had a way of life. Each one of us are our ancestors.
Story